What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video in the Learn Linux series, and today we're going to just talk about chaining together some commands that exist within Linux, and some of these we've already used, some we haven't used. We'll just learn as we go. My goal with this series is not to introduce every single command. That would take forever. I'm not the most knowledgeable on every command, but I would like to just show you the capabilities of what you can do with Linux, and these are things that you only learn through exploring yourself, through experimenting yourself. That is the only way that you will get good at using these commands and comfortable with flowing what's a chain with what. So I've searched here through GitHub for sample nginx log. So I'm just going to go ahead and download that to my machine real quick. I'm going to SSH to it and use a tool called curl. Well, if I can type my password correctly first. I use a tool called curl to download this file to a file called access.log. Looks like it's not installed. It's wget installed. Wget's installed. So we use that instead. This is just a tool to retrieve data from a website, pretty much. So now that I have my file here, we can go ahead and open it in Vim, and we can see what it kind of looks like. We have just a bunch of IP addresses, the path to which the person went to on the server, and I guess this is going to be the actual domain name. So they went to google.com/name/Tom, and they came from an iOS device, right? Obviously, these are fake logs. This isn't what they actually look like, but it's similar enough. So I'll just go ahead and exit out of this SSH terminal. We'll go back to our T2I here, which is what you guys will normally have. And we'll cat that again real quick. So we've learned a few tools here that we can use to parse this data. Let's say we want the IP addresses. We learned that we can use the regular expression with grep to only get the IP addresses. But if you notice here, the IP address is always the first column. So there's something else we can use. So there's a tool called awk, and awk is basically a programming language, essentially, that's triggered by the tool. It's installed on almost every single Linux machine, probably every single one actually, and it can be used to, again, parse data. So one of the things you can do with awk is you can only print the first column of a space separated file. So by default, the delimiter for where things are split is going to be a space with awk. You can change that if you have a comma separated list or a colon separated list or whatever it is. So let's just say I got access log. We'll pipe that into awk, and we'll just use this command here. You don't need to memorize this now, but you can read up about awk later. It has this command called print $1, which pretty much means print the first column, right? So I pipe that into there. You see I'll only get my IP addresses. And if you see if I do 2, we'll get the dashes. If you count 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll get the dates. Very simple. We'll use 1 for now. That's what we want. And now let's say we want to then sort this list, and it's already sorted right now, but we'll just pretend it's not sorted. Let's say it's not sorted. Let's sort it. We can pipe that into a program in Linux called sort. So that'll literally sort the IP addresses. Okay, so now that our data is sorted, I only want the unique IP addresses. You can literally pipe that into another program called unique, spelled UNIQ, and I'll only get the 3 different IP addresses. So the reason I piped it into sort and then unique is because unique has a bit of a gotcha, and it's not something that's necessarily very clear from the man page, but the data that goes into unique must already be sorted. So if I add in fake log in here so that we no longer have sorted data, let's say this is going to be 1.2 now, and we run our same command again, and we remove the sort, you'll notice now we have multiple IP addresses rather than our 3 IP addresses in our list. Things are repeated. It's not actually unique. And that's because, again, like I said, a unique requires sorted data. So if I sort it, once again, we have our 3 IP addresses uniquely. So now, what if I wanted to see the number of IP addresses that were unique? I can say unique-c, and that'll tell us that we have 3 of each. So we have 3 1.1, 3 1.2, and 3 1.3s. And there's a lot of options that go with sort and unique that you can read in the man page. So sort has its own thing. Sort can actually do a lot of cool things. Like you can sort by a certain column. So if I have access log, I can pipe that into sort, and I can say sort by the first column, and you'll see that my data is now sorted by the IP address, or I can sort by the device type, it's already sorted, so I won't do that. But let's say the domain name. So we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll see now we have bing.com, bing.com, and all google.com after that because it's sorted by that column. Yeah, so this is just another tool you can use, and it has its own unique thing as well. So you can use sort-u instead of piping into unique a second time. I personally like to do sort pipe unique. It's just a little bit more clear in terms of what's happening sometimes. And I have encountered certain situations where this hasn't worked that great. Let's go back into our log. Let's modify it again. Let's add another fake thing. Let's say now we have 4 1.1s and 3 of each of the other ones. So let's say we now want to sort this. We can pipe that again into sort. And guess what? We can now see the number. And let's say we want the highest amount of IP addresses found at the top. We can do sort-r. That's a reverse sort. So like sort from greatest to least instead of least to greatest. So this is just a simple example of you can chain commands together to get the basic data that you want. There's also other tools that you can use that can be very useful when you're doing this kind of parsing. If you have, for example, JSON data, there's a tool called JQ. And so you can, in this case, apt install JQ. And if we had a JSON file, let's say, it's just.json, let's create some random data here, something, some number, close it, right? Obviously, now we have this test.json here. We can pipe that into JQ. Oh, look, it's all pretty. And I only want the something key. So I say dot something, and it tells me that the number 4 is the key, is the value of the key something. And then I can do other stuff. Let's say this was a list of stuff and I parse it all out. I can then do let's say there's a list of like logs that were stored in JSON format. I can then parse out only the IP addresses, do my chain of commands here, and get the information that I need to forward to whatever person that's requesting it. This is a very simple tutorial, not a lot of depth in here today, but it's a very simple concept of using the pipes in Bash. Basically, you're just feeding information from one program to another. And not all programs support pipes being piped into, but most of them will, especially if they are especially if they are good new tools. They are built to take in piped in data, so you can do this kind of thing. There's other ways of doing pipes that doesn't involve this, but that's a little bit more complicated. There's something called a named pipe, and you can use that in certain scenarios. Usually you will not encounter that in your day-to-day. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.